So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Hitting you back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Monday, November 30th. Hope everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Monday, November 30th. It is a Monday coming out of another big weekend of sports, another big weekend of football. A lot of good games on this weekend. There was a whole lot of them. A lot of good football. Jets disappointed again. We'll get to them in just a little bit. Although it was a packed weekend of football, and I hope everyone had a good weekend, whatever you did. I know Thanksgiving was Thursday, but whatever you did, if you did anything more with friends and family throughout the weekend, hopefully you did enjoy that. And now it is officially, Thursday was, the day off. A lot of people had off from Thursday to Sunday. I took Thursday off, and I did a show on, obviously, Friday. But obviously, everyone usually takes the day off on Thursday to Sunday. So, obviously, the weekend's officially over now. But hopefully, whatever you did over the weekend, you enjoyed it, because now it is officially back to the grind, back to everyday, daily life, and it is a Monday. I do not like Mondays. I especially don't like Mondays when the Jets lose, which has been 11 times this season. We'll get to them in a little bit. Kentucky also lost yesterday, so if it could get any worse, Kentucky got upset. And the Jets lost yesterday. And luckily my other teams did not play, or else that could have been a really painful day for sports. Although for fantasy football, it was a historic day for one of my players and my all-time probably best fantasy game I have ever played. And we'll get to that in just a little bit. But there was a lot of good football to go through this weekend. These are the topics for today. We got NFL games / the Jets and the Giants. A positive. It was a week full of positives and negatives, because the negative was the Jets and Kentucky lost. And then a positive was I'm winning in both fantasy leagues. One league is closer than the other, and it's going to all depend on what happens with our final two players that we have. And in my other league, I'm dominating. We'll get to that in a second. I don't want to spoil it because it was insane. I was not expecting to put up this many points. In my other league, I'm dominating. He's still got Wilson and a couple other players, but he's down by like 100-something. So I don't foresee him coming back. Hey, if he comes back, then, props to him. That's insane. I don't think it's even possible. Wilson might have to put up like 60 in order to win, which I don't see happening. So we got fantasy football results, but it was a week because more than likely both leagues, I have a very good shot at. And I won in one league. It's pretty much impossible. Wilson has to throw like 10 touchdowns. It's pretty much impossible. So I won in one league. My other league, I'm winning by 9. I still have Chris Carson. He still has Chase Claypool. But that's going to depend on if tomorrow's game plays or not. If it doesn't play tomorrow, then he's for sure not going to win. I'm hoping Chris Carson has a good game today because I need him to give me points. 9 is not enough separation because Claypool has shown that he can put up 20, and 9 is not enough separation. So I hope Chris Carson have a good game today. But like I said, fantasy football results. Then we'll get to college football, college basketball in Kentucky. I guess another positive is Miami does, in fact, play again this week. Finally. They have not played. They've not stepped on the football field since they played against Virginia Tech, which I can't even tell you when that was. That was now this upcoming Sunday. That's almost a month. So they've played Duke this weekend, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on ACC Network, so I'll be watching that game finally. I enjoy watching the other college games. It wasn't painful not having Miami on. It did feel odd because usually that's the game I'm connected to is when Miami's on. Like, that's something I take time out of my day. Like, I got to watch them. As for when I'm watching other college football, I'll switch back and forth. When one game goes to a commercial, I'll watch another game. And stuff like that. But when Miami's in, I'm locked in. Same thing with the Jets. Same thing with all my sports teams. When they're on, I'm locked in. So it's kind of weird not having that on a Saturday with Miami. But hopefully this weekend that game does go as planned and there's no positive cases and Miami can just go play again. Because the more games that Miami gets canceled, the less and less amount of the chance if they get to possibly a New Year's Six Bowl, and the chances are so slim, but possibly make the college football playoff. So we want Miami to start to play again and show the country and show the nation that they can still be a competitive team and still be a good football team. So hopefully that game goes as planned and they'll play. But like I said, that's on Saturday. We'll talk about then all on Friday. It's Monday. We'll review the entire weekend of football like we always do. with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So it was, in fact, yet another good week of football in the books, although the New York Jets lost again. Like I said, I'm used to the Jets losing. I predict them to lose, so it's not surprising when they lose. And that's, it's frustrating when they lose, obviously, because you don't want your favorite team to lose. I know a lot of Jets fans are rooting for them to lose because they want Trevor Lawrence. I'm not one of those fans, but I'm to the point now where I don't even think you have to root for them to lose. I just don't think, I'm not at that point now. I don't even think you have to root for them to lose. You could root for them to win. They're going to lose either way. I think it's at that point now where they're so bad, they're not going to win a game. They're going 0-16. We've said that since, we've been saying that for multiple weeks now. We've been saying that pretty much since that 0-3, 0-4 start. We've been saying that really since the beginning of the season. I'm not exaggerating that when I say that. We really have been saying that the Jets have a very realistic shot at going 0-16 early on in the year. I especially think we even had more of a shot, especially after we lost to the Broncos that one game. Because if we beat the Broncos, you move to 1-3. You're not in a bad position, but you're not in an awful position, but you're not in a good position. You're in a pretty bad situation, but it's not to the point where you're 0-4. I think after that Broncos game where we lost and we moved to 0-4, I think that was really one of those games where you had to sit there and say, you know what? Yeah, that's it. That was probably, if you had to go back and circle one of the games we could have won on our schedule, that was that game. They were playing their third-string quarterback, and that's what I said. That was probably the last game we have a chance at winning. Because then from that point on forward, we have no one. And the Jets have the second hardest schedule the rest of the way. And I will read you their schedule in just a second. And then we'll get to my game picks, and then we'll get into the actual Jets thing. But the Jets have the second hardest schedule remaining. And I don't know who has the first. I would have to check. But the Jets have the second hardest schedule remaining in the NFL. And they said that yesterday on the broadcast while they were playing the game. They have the Raiders. Literally, they have their next 5 games could technically be all playoff teams. Maybe outside of the Patriots. The Patriots are, 5-6, I think. Maybe outside of the Patriots, but the Patriots are in the hunt. They're still very well in the playoff race. So you could technically sit here and tell me that these 5 teams that play coming up are all playoff teams. 4 of them are playoff teams. 1 of them is the Patriots. They're in the hunt, but they still have a very good shot. The Raiders, they're 6-4, 6-5 something. They're in the playoffs right now. Raiders are a playoff contender. I shouldn't say they're a playoff team. They're a contender. They're in at the moment. That could very well change. So the Raiders, the Seahawks, the Rams, the Browns, and the Patriots. Those are your games. Those are your remaining games of the season. The Raiders, Seahawks, Rams, Browns, Patriots. The Raiders are what? I'm going to see. I'm going to check this really quickly. The Raiders are... What are the Raiders? The Raiders are... Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the Raiders are 6-5. The Seahawks are up there as well. So the worst team they're playing is a 5-6 team in the Patriots, which is very well possibly by the time they meet them on that last game of the season... Could very well. They have a tough schedule too, but they could beat the Chargers. There's a good chance there. Not saying they will. That's a winnable. The Dolphins are a beatable team. The Dolphins can be beat. The Jets, obviously. So they could very well be meeting them in that game 8-7 about. They could very well be meeting that game at about 8-7. Sorry about that. Draw my pen cap. They could very well be meeting them in that game 8-7. So the Jets have a very difficult schedule coming up. So the Jets are going to go 0-16. But I just wanted to make that. I kind of just wanted to read you that because it was a pretty. I knew their schedule was tough, but I didn't think it was the second toughest in the league. I thought I know the Giants are up there. I know who else? Washington. It's not crazy tough, but they have a couple games. They have 2 of probably top 5 teams in the league right now, Steelers and Seahawks. I know the Bills' schedule. Bills' schedule really isn't tough, but they're playing a bunch of decent teams. They're playing a bunch of decent teams, is what I should say. It's not tough, but they're playing a bunch of decent teams. It's one of those games, every game is going to be a competition for them. It's not like one of these games where you're playing against the Jaguars and you're like, oh, this is an easy winner against the Jets. But the Jets, it really is crazy. So before we get into the real Jets thing, these were my game picks. I had a huge bounce back this week. Obviously, last week was my first week below 500 on the entire year. I'm over it, right? I got over it. I moved on. I obviously was able to bounce back this week. Had a very good week this week for my game picks. I'm over it, but it's still like a blemish there. It's still like an eyesore looking at that. It's still an eyesore because I was hoping go through the 17 weeks of the season and you could go through all 17 and sit here and say, oh my gosh, like wow, like I didn't have 1 week below 500 and now I really do. But I did bounce back this week. I had a very good week. I said I did not think I was going to get to 120 wins this week. I did. I went 10-4 this week on my game picks. That moves me to 120 and 63 on a year with this big week I had, plus tonight's game, which would bump me to possibly 11-4. Ideal if tomorrow's game played is 12-4. Obviously, all the teams played this week except the Ravens and the Steelers so far. Next week is your final week for bye weeks. And then after that, we'll get all 16 teams again playing. So hopefully, or 16 games again. So hopefully both those games. Hopefully if both those games play, hopefully we know the Eagles and the Seahawks are playing, but if that Ravens Steelers game does play, then hopefully that does well. So I went 10-4 on my game picks, moved to 120 and 63 on the season. So was a pretty successful week for the game picks, I would say. So now let's move into the New York Jets, because once again, the New York Jets just embarrassed themselves, and I don't even want to say at their home field because it wasn't like up against their home crowd. I don't want to say that because no one's at the stands, but I mean people are watching at home, obviously. Although I think the Jets ratings they've got to be one of the lowest rated football teams. Not just because people might not watch, not just because some fans might have given up on them. Some fans, like if you have the choice between, let's just say, like the Bills-Chargers yesterday to watch or like the Jets-Dolphins, people are going to take that Bills-Chargers. So I shouldn't really say in front of their home fans, even though they're home, there's no one in attendance, obviously, with the whole virus situation. Some people, I don't have to rehash it all. But without any fans, so I don't really want to say they embarrassed themselves in the home crowd, but they did embarrass themselves yesterday on television. Every single week, the New York Jets show up on Sunday and do not even look like a least decent football team. All I am asking for is for the New York Jets is to at least put 60 minutes of football together. If that doesn't mean a win, okay. I'm going to be frustrated if it isn't a win, but at least show some competitiveness out there. At least show something like you actually want to be there. I feel like this team is just going through the motions. I feel like they're not even trying. Week in and week out, they go out on the field and they look like they're not even trying. I don't know what it is. It doesn't even look like they're trying. It looks like they're trying to lose, not trying to win. Some of the dumb mistakes and dumb decisions by our quarterback yesterday and Sam Darnold had to be some of the worst decisions I have seen in my entire life as a sports fan. Because Sam Darnold made some dumb decisions yesterday, and there is no other way of saying it. And I don't usually rip into Darnold this much, but what I saw out of him yesterday was a guy who we cannot have as our franchise quarterback anymore. And I'm sorry, I've been on Darnold's side for a long time. I will still live up to this. I don't think it's all on him. I think a lot of it's Gase, which is why I'm saying that if he goes to another team, I think he will succeed there. And I don't think it's all on him. I do think it's on Gase and this team, what they've built around him. They're building around not a great receiving core. Perryman, Crowder, Mims is not bad, but if you want your quarterback to really shine, those are not the three guys you're going to want around him. Look at some of these other successful quarterbacks in the league. Patrick Mahomes, look at his receiving core. He is the top two guys in the league that have the two best receiving yards in the league. Kelsey and Kill lead the league in receiving yards. 957 for Kelsey, 1,200 something for Hill. Right? I'm not trying to compare the Jets and Mahomes and the Chiefs to the Jets, but it's the truth. But what I saw to Darnold yesterday wasn't on the receivers, because sometimes it was on the receivers, right? I've said this. There was a couple, there was one, I think, even early on in the year where the guy just dropped the ball. It went off his chest and it went into the defender's hands. Not all of it's always on Darnold. Also, the offensive line. But Darnold had all the time in the world yesterday. He even rolled out of the pocket. And the Jets were in field goal range. They were in prime position to hit a field goal. And he throws an horrendous interception. And I've said this, and all these coaches, Adam Gase, Darnold, all these players say they got to go back and look at the film. I don't know what film you're watching. Because if you're Sam Darnold, you've been doing this since you stepped on to the football field as a pro player in the NFL. He's been doing this since day one. I'm pretty sure his first interception of his NFL career was a cross-body, no-look throw across the middle. Okay? Darnold's got to stop doing these cross-body, no-look throws across the middle when he's running out of the pocket. Throw the ball away. You've got to be smarter than that. And I don't want to sit here and judge him because if I was out there, I would probably do the same thing or I would straight up just run for my life. But I am telling you this, for a quarterback to be in the NFL, you've got to recognize, oh my gosh, there's a defender there. Why am I going to throw it across the middle? It literally looked like he was throwing it to the Dolphins player. It literally looked like he was trying to throw it to the Dolphins player. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know if he thought Crowder was going to come in, but Crowder is running an out route. Why would you think he would adjust his route, come in, and throw it? Like, these plays by Sam Darnold are so stupid. And then the play to Denzel Mims where he threw the interception, Denzel Mims wasn't even open. He wasn't even finishing running his route and he threw the ball. Denzel Mims wasn't even looking at him. He wasn't even done running his route. He was running a quick in, about like a 5-yard up and a 5-yard out. He was at the up and he already threw the ball and it was an interception. And that's not on Mims. Mims wasn't even done running his route, and even if he was covered. And yet Darnold rushes his throw and throws a pick. Two very bad picks by yesterday. And for everyone saying that Darnold's back, finally got his receiving core that everyone wanted him to have. And I was excited too. I wanted to see, maybe, I was excited. I was seeing, what could Darnold do? We haven't seen him with this receiving core at all this season. Not saying that he's going to go out there, win the next 6 games, and make a Pro Bowl and throw 5 touchdowns. I wanted to see if he would do good. Because all season long, he's been battling with Chris Hogan, Barrios, he's had Vincent Smith in it, or Jeff Smith. He's had a couple of guys in there bouncing in and out. Griffin, Herndon. Right now, he finally gets a stable receiving core. And Darnold, if anything, that was with the worst he's looked all season long. Throws 2 interceptions. He has not thrown 1 touchdown since week 3 of the NFL season against the Indianapolis Colts. And still in that game, he also threw 3 interceptions. The New York Jets fall again. This defense looked good, too. This defense forced back-to-back drives. They forced a turnover, fumble recovery. And this offense could not do anything. You have to convert on those turnovers. Turnovers don't happen that often, especially for a Dolphins team who's a pretty good team. They're not a high turnover rate team. And you turn the ball over twice, and your defense is playing so good, the offense has to take advantage of that. You can't every single time, turnover, let's get the ball back and go 3 and out. You can't do that. And that's why the Jets lost that game. The defense played well. They did everything they could. They allowed 20 points. The offense scored 3 points. The Broncos, who were using a practice squad receiver as their quarterback because all their receivers were either had COVID or were on the COVID list because they were in the close contact. A guy who came off the practice squad realized he was going to be the quarterback literally the day before the game, came off the practice squad, realized he was going to be the quarterback. He's a receiver, by the way, off the practice squad. Realized he was going to be a quarterback for the Denver Broncos. They drew up a game plan in about 30 minutes right before the game. They scored the same amount of points as the New York Jets did yesterday, and that was 3. And the Broncos, they were supposed to lose that game. And the Jets, with Darnold and all the receivers healthy, they scored 3 points. And the New York Jets fall once again to 0-11 on the year. Darnold went 16-27, 197 yards, 12.3 was his average. No touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 3 sacks, a rating of 51. Frank Gore had 18 carries for 74 yards, 4.1 was his average, and his 17 was his long. Perryman had 8 targets, 4 catches for 79 yards. Mims had another good game, 4 catches for 67 yards. Crowder had 3 catches for 31 yards. Just really bad performance for the New York Jets. Quinn Williams had a 1.5 sack. Hewitt had a sack. And Jenkins had half of a sack. And Fatukasi also had a sack. As for the Dolphins, Fitzpatrick endured 6 sacks. Just not enough. 24-39, 257 yards, 10.7 was average, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 4 sacks, and a rating of 97.9. Washington had 49 yards, 3 running backs fumbled. Fitz fumbled, Britta fumbled, Lard fumbled. Parker had 8 catches for 119 yards. Gesicki had 2 catches for 35 yards and a touchdown. And Shaheen, the backup tight end, had a catch for 7 yards and a touchdown. Oh, by the way, Mike Gesicki, I've been talking about Ashton Davis a ton. I don't think he's that good. Guess what, Mike? Ashton Davis, just awful coverage on Mike Gesicki to allow that touchdown. And the New York Jets fall to 0-11, and yet Adam Gase is still the head coach of this football team. He is still the head coach of this football team. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you why, because I'm not sure. I'm not sure that. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not sure why in the world he is still our head coach, but he is. And I know all you people out there some of you might be saying, oh, they're keeping him. They're going to go 0-16. If they fire him now, they're not going to go 0-16. Well, I'll tell you what. All those Jets fans out there that are rooting for the tank, and I am rooting for the Jets to get Lawrence, but I think we could very well get it done going 1-15 because the Jaguars have played very well. And I actually believe, I might not predict them to win, but I wouldn't be surprised to end out the year if the Jaguars go 2-14. I wouldn't be surprised. The Jets can get the first overall pick going 1-15. It's if they win 2 games. And I'm telling you right now, the Jets are not going to win 2 games. Raiders, Seahawks, Rams, Browns, Patriots, you're not going to find 2 wins out of those next 5 games. You're not. And if anything, you beat the Patriots on the final week of the season. If they're out of the playoffs and Bill Belichick plays another quarterback other than Cam Newton because the game means absolutely nothing. That's the only way. And people have said that's an option. If they're sitting there 6-9 or whatever, or 5-11, or 5-10 in that game, or 7-8, and they're out of the playoffs and they're not even in the conversation, if Belichick benches Cam and brings in Stidham just to see what his future could be, then maybe. But still, that would put you at 1-15. The Jets are not winning a game this season. That's why I don't even think you don't even have to root for them to tank. You could root for them to win and they're still going to lose. They're going to lose, guys. They're going to lose. And actually, it's the truth. And Gase kind of is hurting the Jets here in a way because everyone talks so much about Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is going to, you saw what happened to Darnold. Trevor Lawrence is going to want to come to a team that's going to be able to do good with him. Darnold got ruined by this franchise. Trevor Lawrence doesn't want to get ruined. You know what I'm saying? So now we move on to the Cincinnati Bengals and the New York Giants. New York Giants won. They moved to 4-7 on the season. And moving to first place, as surprising as it may sound, moving to first place in the division yesterday. And I've always said this. I've said this throughout, my podcast and stuff. A win is a win. A win is a win for any sports team. A win is a win. But for someone to, but to be honest, if I was going to sit here and say, a win is a win. A win is a win. The New York Giants yesterday did not play good football, okay? And I know you might come at me and say, oh, what are you talking about? They got to win. I understand a win's a win, but it was an ugly win. And I'm telling you this, if you're a New York Giants fan, you should be worried. Because they play like this against the Seahawks, against the Cardinals, against the Ravens, against the Browns, you're not going to get the win. Those are good teams. You're not going to get the win against the Seahawks if you play this way. You're not. They made Brandon Allen look like a good quarterback yesterday. Brandon Allen had a pretty quality game. Brandon Allen didn't play that bad. He really didn't. He had 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He took 2 sacks, 136 yards. He didn't play awful. What were you expecting out of Brandon Allen? What were you expecting a guy to do? Throw 4 touchdowns? The Bengals hung around in that game, right? And that's what I kind of want to say, is if the Giants don't, shape up some of their ugly stuff that they did yesterday, they're going to be in a bad situation because their schedule is very difficult. Seahawks, that's a loss. Cardinals, that's a loss. Browns, that's a loss. Ravens, that's a loss. Cowboys, that's a win. So you might finish the year at 5-11. And now Daniel Jones, too, is hurt. And I've always said this. I'm not a big fan of Daniel Jones. I don't think he's that great of a quarterback. I don't think he's the future for the New York Giants. You never like to see anyone injured. I do hope he is okay. But if he does not play 1 or 2 weeks, if he does not play against the Seahawks, they're definitely losing. They're going to lose with him. If he does not play, and Colt McCoy does against the Seahawks and the Cardinals, let's just say, they're 4-9. The Giants can enjoy this. But they got to realize they played one heck of an ugly game. And the way they played yesterday is not going to get the job done against a team like the Seahawks or the Cardinals or even a pretty solid defense in the Cleveland Browns. That's not going to get the job done. Daniel Jones went 16 of 27, 213 yards, 13.3 his average. No touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks. Rating of 84.3. McCoy went 6 of 10, 31 yards, 5.2 his average. His rating was 65. Gallman had 24 carries for 94 yards and a touchdown. 3.9 was his average. Ingram had 6 catches, 129 yards. Shepard had 7 catches for 64. Tate had 4 catches for 36 yards. So overall, a pretty good game for the Giants. Decent, but like I said, this is not going to get the job done against a team like the Seahawks or the Cardinals. Brandon Allen went 17 of 29, 136 yards, 8 was his average. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 2 sacks, rating of 67.6. Bernard had 32 yards, 4 was his average. Nothing crazy there. T. Higgins, 5 catches, 44 yards, and a touchdown. He caught Brandon Allen's only touchdown of the game. Bengals lose 19-17. Giants win. They move to 4-7 on the year. And for the moment, they are the leader of the division. But I think that will change because I think Washington wins that division. So with all that being said, now we move on to the rest of the games of the weekend. On the weekend, the Packers beat the Bears 41-25. Everyone was I'm going to tell you this, okay? And I talk how much of a mess the Jets are. I think they are the worst football team in the league. But the Bears are close to the Jets and the Jaguars, the Bears. And I said this a couple weeks ago when they were 5-1, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, Nick Foles, the Bears, they're winning, they're doing this, doing that. I said they were the worst 5-1 team I have ever seen. And just like that, 5-game losing streak because they played some actual decent competition, and they are now 5-6. Because you want to know the competition they played to start off the season 5-1? Lions, Giants, Falcons. They lost to the Colts, the Buccaneers, Panthers. I mean, that's as bad as it can get. Lions bad, Giants not very good, Falcons not very good. They lost to the Colts, which is reasonable. Buccaneers I don't think are that very good either. And the Panthers, another team below 500. And now they're playing good teams like the Rams, the Saints, the Titans, Vikings making a playoff push, and now the Packers. And it just goes to show you the only reason they were 5-1 was because of the weakness of their schedule. They start to play some good defenses, some good teams like the Rams, the Saints, and the Titans. You start to play some good teams, and they start to go down the hole. And now they've got a couple winnable games to finish out the year. They can definitely beat the Lions, and they definitely could beat the Jaguars. So their season isn't in complete burnt down yet. Their season isn't completely burnt down yet, but it's close to it. You know, if they want somehow, some way to keep this season alive, they need to beat the Lions. I think the Texans, I don't think they win that game. The Vikings is going to be tough too. It's going to be tough. If they want any way to turn this season around and try to go 9-7 or 10-6, it's possible they win their remaining games. It's possible. I don't think they will, but it's possible. It's not like you got to go against Seahawks, Rams. I think the Lions and the Jaguars are 2 winnable games. I think the Texans and the Vikings are going to be tough, though. They might finish the year 7-9, maybe. Even then, though, I don't even know if I'll predict them to win this week. They looked awful yesterday. And that's what I wanted to say. They looked horrendous yesterday. That's really what I wanted to say. They really did. They really did look horrendous yesterday. They did not play well at all. The return of Mitch Trubisky, which everyone was going to say, was going to spark them, was going to make this spark underneath them, did not work. It did not do anything. Packers came out and dominated 41-25. And I'm a big. I don't mind if it's an offensive shootout. But I like good football games. I like when games are close. I like when you're sitting at the edge of your seat in that fourth quarter with 2 minutes left and the team's got the ball and they're driving and it comes down to that. I don't like games where it's done in the second quarter. I mean, they were winning 27-10 going into the halftime. You knew it was done. You knew it was done once. I knew it was done before the game even started. I had the Packers winning. Packers win 41-25. And now with Matt Nagy, players coming out and saying stuff, this is a Bears team that's in a very bad situation. We move on to the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. Chiefs moved to 27-24 on the season, or they win 27-24. 27-24. Tyreek Hill had an historic day, all around fantasy, regular, historic day, all around for Tyreek Hill. 3 touchdowns. He had what? 3 touchdowns, 269 yards. Just insane. He had a big day. And what did I say again? And you guys all have seen it. Brady struggled once again. He makes some bad throws, some bad decisions by Tom Brady costing that game. And what have I said this whole time about the Buccaneers? And I'm not even kidding. I might give the Buccaneers the loss after their bye week against the Vikings. I'm not even kidding. This is an awful Buccaneers team. I don't think they're that good. I shouldn't say awful because they're 7-5, but they're not that good. And like I said, this whole Arians and Brady thing not working out. I always use this example. This is them right now. It's almost like if you put the 2 magnets together. They're just not working out. They're not working out right now. And this is a Buccaneers team that needs to turn it around quickly. Because if they're 7-5, that's not ideal for a team that everyone thought was going 14-2, 13-3, and making the Super Bowl. That's not happening. Chiefs win 27-24. This was a surprise. I was not expecting this one. The 49ers came out and played well. 49ers win 23-20. 49ers in a very, very, very interesting situation for the rest of the season, as the 49ers do not get to play at San Francisco at all for the rest of the year. Their remaining games will be in Arizona for the rest of the season. So kind of an odd twist there, but their remaining games will be in Arizona. So San Francisco is not going to be in San Francisco anymore. They'll be playing the rest of their home games in Arizona. If you heard about the guidelines in San Francisco, I don't know who it was. I don't want to mayor, governor, whoever it was, shut down. You cannot have any sporting events. So that even includes the NFL. Cannot have any sporting events. So they have to move. And they are now playing in Arizona, which is the Cardinal Stadium, for the rest of the season, which, if I'm not mistaken, they play the Bills on Monday night next week. But they only have 3 home games left. So, it's not like this happened at the beginning of the year where you had to play all their games. They just finished out the season. So, it's another curveball that 2020 throws at the NFL. But obviously, with in regards to this whole NFL thing, they're lucky this happened later on in the year, is what I'm saying. They're lucky this happened later. Because if this happens earlier in the year, you're sitting in a tough situation. You almost have to do a Blue Jays. You almost have to play on the road for the entire season. So they're kind of on the road for the final couple of weeks of the season, but I don't think this is a team that's going to make the playoffs. So it's not like, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. So it's not like you'd have to really worry about them, where they're going to play for the playoffs. Because what if the Cardinals have a playoff game, same thing with the Niners, right? I don't think you have to worry about that because I don't think they'll make the playoffs. But the Rams came out, and the Rams didn't play awful. They're just late, they just did not have that much offensive firepower. 49ers came out and shocked everyone. They really did. I don't think anyone was really expecting Nick Mullins to go out there. Nick Mullins didn't even play that good. I think the return of Raheem Mostert with his touchdown definitely helped them out. But a good win for the San Francisco 49ers nonetheless, as they pick up the win. Saints and the Broncos. This is one of these games where I hate when NFL cancels games. I've said this. I think any of us do. I don't think anyone wants games canceled. I don't think anyone would try and get a game to be canceled. But if I was the NFL yesterday, I would have canceled this Broncos-Saints game. And I understand See, I don't want to sound like a downer saying, "Oh, you should just cancel it, just give up," because I know they tried their best. I know the Broncos tried their best. But this is a loss for the Broncos. They're 4-7. This is a loss. This is big. They're 4-7 now. Their playoff hopes are completely gone. Pretty much. They win that game, and you're sitting at 5-6. Okay, you're not in a golden position, but you're not in a 4-7 position. And that's what stinks. Is because they took a loss yesterday. They took a loss. And they did not have any one of their quarterbacks yesterday. They had to get a guy from the practice squad who's a receiver to come up and play quarterback in an NFL game against a defense in the New Orleans Saints, who we all know can be very good. And he played really bad yesterday. I mean, he did, but, it is what it is. He went 1 of 9, 13 yards, and 2 interceptions, and he took a sack. And his rating was 0. Okay, he struggled, but, this is one of these games where I would sit here and say, you would cancel it. Because they had no quarterback. And this goes down as a loss now. This goes down as a loss. That could be your season right there, is that loss yesterday. So, Broncos lost. Saints won a game that they should have won. I mean, it's win's a win, but, it's not one of those games where I really got to cover it. Kind of the story is they had no quarterback. Now I move on to the Raiders and the Falcons. Falcons won this game 43-6. I was surprised about this one. Falcons played really well. And they really did. They really did come out, and they played really, really, really well. Obviously, it was, Matt Ryan had a pretty good game. He threw 2 touchdowns, 185 yards. Not amazing, but he had a pretty good game. But really, though, they really did play well. This is a Falcons team that came out. Their defense stopped them. Their defense had a very good showing considering how bad their defense can be at times. So ultimately, a good win for the Atlanta Falcons. Like I always say, you can be awful and stuff, but the Falcons are 4-7. You can be bad. You can be, struggling, but a win is a win, and it's good for the Falcons. And who knows? Falcons got the Saints coming up, Chargers, Buccaneers, Chiefs, Buccaneers. They've got a tough schedule, but, who knows? Maybe they squeak out one more win against, possibly, if anything, the Chargers. Maybe you squeak out one more win against the Chargers, and if the Buccaneers clinch a playoff spot, maybe you catch the Buccaneers benching their players. But, like I said, I don't want to say the Buccaneers in playoffs because, I don't even think that's a guarantee yet. But maybe you squeak out one more win against the Chargers and finish your season 5-11. For the way you started to finish 5-11, isn't that bad. But this is a Falcons team that, like I said, I still think has a lot of talent. Just their coaching, and if they get a good coach in there, I really think this could be a team that could turn it around. They won yesterday 43-6. Titans won 45-26. Colts struggled. They struggled on offense, and this is what I said going into this game. I don't trust Phillip Rivers. If I was a Colts fan, I would not trust him. He's not trustworthy. I would not. I wouldn't. I really wouldn't trust him. I just don't think he is that kind of guy that's going to be able to lead you to the big things. He's not trustworthy in my opinion. You just can't trust him. I don't think he's trustworthy to be going out there and winning football. I know he's won some football games, but a lot of this has been on the defense. And you look, if it comes down to a shootout, this is a Colts team that can't keep up. The Titans put up 45 points against probably the best defense in the league, one of the best defenses in the league, and the Colts did nothing on offense. So you could show they cannot perform very well on. He cannot perform very well when it comes down to shootouts. That's, I think, part of it's because of Phillip Rivers. He's lost it. He's like Brady. He's not the same. He doesn't have that same arm strength. It's different now. As you get up there in age, your arm strength drops, your wins drop, things start to drop as you get up there in age, and that's normal. But the Colts lost, Titans won 45-26, and the Titans now, they're in a golden position too to take that division. They've got a couple very winnable games coming up. Pretty much all the rest of their games are winnable for them. The Browns is winnable. Jaguars are winnable. Lions is winnable. Packers would be tough. I'll probably give them a loss there. And I think the Texans are winnable too. Browns is very winnable. They might finish out the year going 5-1, which would put them at 12-4 for the year. So I think they're in a good position to definitely. I think they're definitely in a good position to, really. I think they're in a very good position to, make things happen and win some more ball games and really get up there in the division. And as for the Colts, their schedule is kind of the same too. They have the Titans, Raiders, Steelers, Jaguars. So they got some winnable games in there. Pretty much the remaining other games are all winnable outside of the Steelers. I don't think they win that game. But if you look at it, all these games are technically winnable for them. So it's going to really come down to the wire. But that was a huge win yesterday for the Titans, considering that they have a very winnable schedule coming up as well. Both schedules favor both teams. Now I move on to the Panthers and the Vikings. The Vikings obviously came out with the one win yesterday. Tough news for Panthers fans. Tough news for my fantasy team. We don't know how bad it is. DJ Moore left the game with an ankle injury. Not going to be bad for the Panthers. But I just want to say, this is a Vikings team that's 5-6 right now. They're in a good position. Vikings are in a very good position to possibly make a run. They've got the Jaguars. That's winnable. That would put. Okay, let's be realistic. The Jaguars is a winnable. You go 6-6. So you're now sitting at 6-6, which is 500. Then you have the Buccaneers. If you're being realistic, which I don't think, I might not pick the Buccaneers, but if you're going probably by the spread, the Buccaneers are probably going to be the favorites for that game. So then you would be 6-7. The Bears is very winnable. We'll put them at 7-7. The Saints is going to be tough, probably 7-8. I think if you, and then the Lions is winnable as well. You're 8-8. So the Vikings, if they want to make the playoffs, they're going to have to figure out a way. The Vikings literally can't lose against like the Jaguars. If they lose against the Jaguars, your season's over. I'm sorry. But here's the thing. So they're gonna have against the two, probably the best teams remaining on their schedule are probably the Buccaneers and the Saints. I don't think the Buccaneers are all that good, but when you had to bring them down to the Jaguars, Bears, and Lions, they're probably one of the better ones. So the Buccaneers are, you're going to have to figure out a way to either win the Buccaneers or the Saints game. Because you have those rest of those games, if you play halfway decent, you're going to beat the Lions, you're going to beat the Bears, and you're going to beat the Jaguars. So that's 3 wins. That puts you at 8. It's going to come down to whether you can beat the Buccaneers or the Saints. If you lose to both of them, your season's over. You got to beat one of them. Because that would put you at 9-7. But if you lose both of them, that puts you at, 8-8 probably, and I don't know if that's going to, I know with the expanded playoff spot, but I don't know if 8-8 is still going to be enough to get into playoffs. It's going to be close. But the Vikings, what the Vikings have to do here, especially after, and they did that well yesterday. They got the win, right? It was close, but they got the win. Same thing here with they got to focus on the Jaguars. Right? A lot of times what happens when teams start to hear playoffs, when teams start to hear all about, this and that and this and that, oh, this team could make a run, a lot of times they start to look ahead. Oh, we got an easy opponent against the Jaguars this week. Oh, we can take them. We're going to look ahead to, I can't wait for this Buccaneers game, because a lot of people might be talking about that, how pivotal that game could be for the Viking season. So, even with the expanded playoff spot, they got to win the games they're supposed to win. And you got to win one of the games, because I don't think a lot of people are going to think they're going to beat the Bucs. You got to find a way to beat one of them. You got to find a way to try to beat the Bucs, because I think the Saints are too hard. But the Bucs is definitely very possible. So the Vikings win. And for the Panthers team, too, at the beginning of the year, who everyone's talking about possibly taking a division from the way the Saints and Bucs and Falcons all started, they're now sitting at 4-8. So their season's over as well. Not completely eliminated, but the mathematical chances is insanely odd. Now we move on to the Bills and the Chargers. I'll tell you what, and this just goes to show you how good this Bills team can be at times. This is a Bills team that did not play their best football yesterday. They did not play their best football yesterday. Josh Allen, let me tell you, he did not play his best football yesterday. But this is by far a team that without their best football, they can still go out there and win games. And that's all that matters if you're a Bills. You did not play your best football yesterday. You played against a feisty and a pretty good Chargers team with a lot of weapons, but they got the job done, and that's all that matters. They did not play their best football yesterday, but it just goes to show you their best football is still solid football. Their tough football, their not so good football is still very, very, very good football. They're still playing at a very high level. Josh Allen did not have his ideal game yesterday, but still, they got the job done, and all that matters. And what's different, because I know some of you might be thinking that, what's different between the Giants brand of bad football to the Bills brand of bad football is the Giants brand of bad football is really bad. The Bills brand of bad football is what you saw yesterday, which was still pretty solid. That's the difference. Browns, Jaguars. I'll tell you what. The Jaguars, at least the Jaguars are competing. And that's one thing I could say. Everyone's talking about how bad the Jaguars and Jets are. At least the Jaguars are competing in games. At least they're competing in games. I understand they lost and stuff, but at least they're competing, and at least they're in games. I understand a loss is a loss, but I would a whole lot rather losing by 2 than losing by 20 every week. It's been obviously tough for this team. of the Jaguars. But the Jaguars, their schedule is not favorable either. Browns, no, I mean, they have the Vikings, Titans, Ravens, Bears, Colts. It's not favorable, I would say, for them. So it's not looking good. They will probably finish the year 1-15. The Browns got the win. They moved to 8-3 on the year, which is solid for the Browns. They moved to 8-3. I mean, you look at it, they got the Titans. That's winnable. Titans is going to be tough. I would probably give the Titans there. Ravens, that's going to be a good game. And you got the Giants, Jets, and Steelers. You can beat the Giants. You can beat the Jets. So 10-6, realistically speaking, 10-6, and you might be able to catch the Ravens. The Ravens are not that good, so maybe I say 10-6, 11-5 at best for the Cleveland Browns the rest of the way. They did not play their best football yesterday, but they got the job done. That's all that matters. Patriots and the Cardinals. Patriots came out and won. The Patriots are odd. They're an odd football team. They really are, because one week they come out, Cam Newton looks like, why in the world is he still playing football? Another week they come out and beat a team who a lot of people think is going to make a deep playoff run, and a lot of people think is an MVP caliber quarterback in Kyler Murray. So, it all depends on what Patriots team you're getting. Are you getting this Patriots team that can beat some big-name teams? They could beat Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, and they could beat Kyler Murray and the Cardinals? Or are you getting the Patriots team that barely, it comes down to a Nick Folk Jets field goal? What Patriots team are you getting? Right? And that's really the big thing. And that's what's scary, is because one week Cam Newton could be off, throws 3 interceptions, and another week he could be on and looks like I shouldn't say MVP Cam, but looks like Cam Newton, pretty solid Cam Newton. What Patriots are you going to get? That's the interesting part. That's why the Patriots are 5-6, because they're inconsistent. They're inconsistent. They really are. They're so inconsistent. They're inconsistent. Look at it. Chargers, Rams, Dolphins, Bills, Jets. Their schedule is tough. You could definitely, the Chargers is winnable, so that would put you at 6-6. The Rams is probably 6-7. The Dolphins is winnable. I would probably venture to say, if I had to choose the odds on this game, the Patriots would probably be the favorite, so that would put them at 7-7. Bills 7-8. You're on pace to probably finish about 8-8 on the year, I think. More than likely 8-8 on the season, somewhere around that. But they obviously lost by 3, the Cardinals. And the Cardinals, they're hurting themselves. I mean, they're 6-5 right now. They really are. 2 back-to-back tough losses. And their schedule doesn't get much. I mean, their schedule is kind of easy, I guess, the rest of the way. But they've got the Rams. That's going to be tough. Possibly 6-6. Then you bounce back, beat the Giants and the Eagles and the Niners. Then you go 9-6, and then maybe 9-7. 9-7 and 10-6, something like that for the Cardinals. But the Cardinals, for a team a lot of people thought were going 12-4, 10-6, might only squeak in at 9-7. A couple bad losses for the Cardinals down the stretch here. And obviously the Washington Texans, we already talked about those games. Now we move on to tonight's game. We got the Seattle Seahawks coming in at 6.5-point favorites, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. Over/under for this game is 48.5 in favor of the Eagles. Moore hip is questionable. Reed foot is questionable. Swan foot is questionable. Simmons calf questionable. Fuller ankle questionable. Shell ankle out, and Homer wrist is out. Those are your injury report for the Seahawks. Jason Peters' toe is questionable. Apita back is out. Lane Johnson ankle is out. Ford hamstring is out. The league rankings, points per game, Seahawks are first. Eagles are 24th. Points per game allowed, Seahawks are 27th. Eagles are 16th. Total yards per game, Eagles are third. Seahawks are third. Eagles are 26th. Pass yards per game, Seahawks are third. Eagles are 27th. Rush yards per game, Eagles are 11th. Or the Seahawks are 11th. Eagles are 12th. And yards per game allowed, Seahawks are 32nd. Eagles are 11th. This is a big game for not only the Eagles, but for the NFC East. Overall, a very huge game for them. I do give the Seahawks the win here. 6.5-point favorites. I give them the win. Let me see what my pick was. I'm pretty sure I remember it, but let me just check what my pick was. I said 35-17. So I would give me the over, I think, right? Yeah. So I think they win 35-17. I think the Seahawks cover, and I take the over on the over-under of 45.5. That's my Monday Night Football game pick. So another very good week of football in the books. Coming up next, fantasy football. Alrighty, so here we go. So, we got fantasy football. So, hopefully, I continue this. I don't think I'm going to continue this amount of points, but hopefully I can continue this winning streak I'm on. I'm in a very clutch winning streak right now. As a matter of fact, let me check what this is all about and what's my winning streak looking like. I'm on a one game winning streak. Really? I forgot I lost him. Well, I guess you could, if you want to be positive about it and not just say the one game winning streak, I guess you could always say I've won 2 of my last 3, about to win 3 of my last 4 down the stretch. And I said this a couple days ago. I need to win pretty much outright to make the playoffs. So, even if I win this week, I am still not guaranteed to be in the playoffs, but my chances go from probably like here to like, this is where you need to be for the playoffs. Let's just say this. My chances probably went from like here to like here. And I just need like next week, I just need to get like kind of put the icing on the cake pretty much. It's not secure. It's one of those things where all you have to do is just do your job and you're in. And for me personally, for me, a person who was 2-1, 2-2, 3-2, 3-3, 3-4, 4-4, 5-4, 5-5, 6-5. For me, who is 5-5, just literally 2 weeks ago, could possibly finish the season at 8-5, which would put me in prime position to be the number 2 seed in the playoffs, which would also put me in prime position to possibly make a run in the playoffs. So it's looking up for me in fantasy right now in this one league. My other league, it's also looking up, but it's not looking as great. But I'm probably going to make the playoffs, but it's not looking insane. It's not looking like I actually have a shot at making a run. In my other league, I'll probably make it, but I don't foresee me getting, exactly in there. But, so it's exciting. I'll tell you that for sure. It really is. And let me see. Is that person... Yeah, it looks like they're going to win. So, it looks like I won't get the number 1 seed. It looks like I won't get the number 1 seed. I will get... See, I have more points total than the number 1 seed, though. If they would have lost this week, that's the thing. If they would have lost this week, is it still possible? No, because I can't get to 8 wins. So more than likely, I'm on my way to 7-5, which would put me right now more than likely in the 2 seed. I would imagine. No, yeah, it's. I gotta figure out. No, because tomorrow it won't count. Wednesday, I'll figure out if I'm the 2 seed or not. Because tomorrow it's not gonna reset because you obviously got the Tuesday game. So we'll figure it out. But anyway, this was my insane week of fantasy football. I am winning right now. And this is probably, I think, the first time. And I'm in a standard scoring league. This isn't no PPR league where you're used to getting in these numbers. I had 202 fantasy points this week. Now, to put that into perspective, this season, my highest amount of points was 149, and that was last week. So my 2 highest scoring weeks are in the weeks where I need to win the most. And that is these weeks. Is the weeks that I needed to win the absolute most. So it is really, really crazy how my season is panning out right here. It really is. And I hope it continues to go this way. But I scored 202 points this week in fantasy. And also to put that in perspective, in my other league right now, I only have 74 points. So, in my other league was a low-scoring affair. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But I'm winning right now 202-61. I'm done. I have no more players. He's still got Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, Deontay Johnson, and Seahawks defense. He's projected to get 109. 202 minus 61, I think is 147. 202 minus 61. 141. He needs 141 points out of those 4 players. Seahawks defense and Deontay Johnson, one of them being, I just don't think it's going to happen. In a way, I'm sitting here thinking like, geez, this could happen, but I'm like, no, it's not happening. If I had 100 points, I'd be like, okay, yeah, this could very well happen. But I don't have I have 202 points. So I got 202 points this week in fantasy. Watson got 32. James Robinson, 21. Antonio Gibson, 31. Tyreek Hill had 44 points for a receiver. Mike Evans, 17. Keenan Allen, 12. Hunter Henry, 6. A.J. Brown, 21. New York Giants defense, 12. Daniel Carlson, 6. And even my bench had a good game. Kenyon Drake had 20. Rams defense had 15. Elair had 3. Godwin had 9. And Raheem Mostert had 8. And Gus Edwards still got to play. I'm probably dropping him. I don't know quite why I picked him up. But yeah, so it looks like I'm on my way to 7-5 on the season, which is just very good for me. In my other league, I'm winning currently 74-65. I've still got Chris Carson. He's still got Chase Claypool to go. So it all comes down to, whether if that game doesn't play tomorrow, then I win. It all comes down to what Chris Carson does today. But yeah, Chris Carson plays today. Rodgers had 33. Elliott obviously had 1. Adams had 12. Woods had 8. Hunter Henry had 6. DJ Moore had 6. Browns defense -1. Daniel Carlson 6. My bench, Robinson had 19. Gurley was out. Matt Ryan had 17. Gronk had 10. Ronald Jones had 16. Eckler had 12. Duke Johnson had 0, or he's on IR. Another costly mistake. I took out Eckler just before the game started, and he had 12. So should have played him. I'm projected to win 87-75, so hopefully that is the case. Just an ugly week in fantasy for this week, a very good week in fantasy for that week. If I could somehow pull out with both wins on both leagues, that would be a very good situation to be in for another good fantasy week there. So hopefully I win in that league. The 202-point league I'm gonna win in, but it's really the question is the other league. Will Chris Carson and my other players get the points that I need? So now I move on to the rest of the college football games. Clemson won 52-17. Texas A&M won 20-7. Georgia won 45-16. Michigan State upset Northwestern 29-20. Alabama beat Auburn 42-13. Coastal Carolina beat Texas State 49-14. Coastal Carolina still winning games. 49 points again. Oklahoma State won 50-44. Indiana won 27-11. Their star quarterback Penix though is out for the season, so not good for Indiana. Florida won 34-10. Oregon won 41-38, or no, Oregon State won 41-38. North Carolina won 31-17, or Notre Dame won 31-17. Iowa won 26-20. Iowa State won 23-20. There. And for college basketball, not too many games on yesterday, but there is a good game on today. Yesterday, there was nothing crazy. Yesterday, Kentucky obviously lost, which is tough. And on Saturday, there wasn't too many games. Virginia Tech won 81-73. Michigan State won 80-70. Baylor won 112-82, and Duke won 81-71. Yesterday, Virginia Tech won 76-58. Michigan won 81-71. Baylor won 86-52. Houston won 64-53. Creighton won 69-58. Rutgers won 70-56. Arizona State won 100-77, and Ohio State won 74-64. And today, North Carolina versus UNLV, I give North Carolina the win. That's today's game. And like I said with Kentucky, they lost 76-64. I've said this so many times now. This is going to be expected, I think. We're a young team. It's going to be expected. We're a young basketball team. It's going to be expected for us to have some of these hiccups. It's just going to be expected. That's just how it's going to be. It stinks, but it's just how it is. So we're going to have to, we're going to have to be better. I'll tell you that for sure. We really will. Because if we're not, if we don't start to play better, then I don't really know what to really say. Because if we don't start to play better, then, we looked so good in the first game. We were moving the ball and stuff. But I noticed yesterday, I was looking back at the game, we were not taking open shots. We had open shots and we weren't taking them. I think it's just we need to build these young players just need to build the confidence. He had a couple open jumpers and these guys weren't taking them. You missed 10 points off of open shots. There it is. You tie game. You missed 10, 12 points. There it is. It's a completely different ball game. It really is. And there was a couple really open shots. I'm not saying we're playing bad. And I said this. I'm not expecting. Last season, I kind of was. I'm not expecting Kentucky to win the championship this season. Next year, when these guys grow up, maybe. But this is a team that's brand new. I'm not expecting Kentucky to win a championship this season. March Madness, yes, that's kind of normal for Kentucky to do. But am I expecting them to win the NBA Final Four? No. And to win the March Madness? No. Now, last season I was pretty confident. I mean, a lot of people were predicting them to win just because of the roster of guys they had. They had so many guys returning. They had probably one of the number one prospects in Tyrese Maxey. So I was expecting that. I mean, they didn't. I mean, we don't know if they would have won it all. Do I think they would have? Probably not. I just don't think they were. I mean, the beginning of the year, sure, but I don't know. I mean, obviously, we won't know if they would have won it all because the whole virus situation got canceled. But I don't think Kentucky's going to win it all this year, and I don't know. They might make the March Madness, but they might get knocked out early. And it's a Kentucky team. This is just not the same this season, and they're not awful. I mean, they're still 20th in the nation, but they're just not a... I mean, if they lose to Kansas, they're probably going to be unranked. I'll tell you that for sure. If they lose to Kansas, they'll probably be unranked. Which stinks because Kansas, it's going to be a tough game to win. It will be. Kansas is going to be easy. If we beat Kansas, we'll make everyone feel like, okay, what Kentucky team are we getting? Are we going to get the team that beats Kansas, or are we going to get the team that passes up on 10-11 wide open shots and loses to Richmond? What Kentucky team are we going to get? So that should be interesting. We'll talk about that tomorrow, though. But that will do it for today's podcast. Tomorrow we've got what do we got on tap for tomorrow? NBA training camp starts tomorrow. I don't want to do a season preview because it's December 1st. But I might talk something about the NBA. Not so much like a season preview, but a little bit of a preview, whether I'm talking about the Nets, whether I'm talking what to expect. Kind of just an overview, and then I'll go more into, I don't know really what to do, but I was thinking I haven't talked much NBA in a while. I was thinking, maybe something like that. Obviously, the Steelers game as well. If that plays, if it doesn't play, then obviously I won't talk about that. But if it plays, I will talk about that. So something like that. And obviously talking about whatever happens in tonight's Monday night game. So that should be good. With all that being said, that will do it for today's podcast. I'll see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.